Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. So, we kind of out of nowhere get Sophia introduced back into the story. She, instead of staying behind at
While I was
Barnet,
digging up Viking gravesites, she was secretly collecting pieces from Atlantis.
this is the same hint or dialogue prompt, and you're pretty much going to get this for the rest of the game, I imagine. So yeah, instead of staying back at Barnet College where it was safe, she ended up on Crete somehow. Not really sure how she figured out that Crete was the lesser colony, and that now, or the greater colony. No, yeah, I think Crete is the greater colony, but it kind of doesn't matter. There's supposed to be basically tunnels both at the lesser colony and the greater colony to reach Atlantis, and in some paths to reach this, if you're not on the Wits path, you actually do end up just getting to Atlantis, I believe, without actually having to find it. It doesn't make a lot of sense because there really needed to be some kind of Atlantean technology that would have acted as a very fast transporter or transportation device, whether it's an elevator, escalator, whatever, because yeah, the lesser colony, the greater colony, and where Atlantis are, you're talking hundreds of miles, and yet in some of the paths you just walk through a door and then you end up at Atlantis. But for this path, Sophia showed up and the Nazis took her on this boat. We had to use the balloon to land on the submarine, and then we landed and beat up somebody and stole his outfit. So now we still have the gum, we still have the ship rib, we still have the clay jar, we have the statue, we have the sunstone, so there's still one more stone to be found somewhere. And
Nothing there.
and there's nothing at the stern there, which that's funny because you'd think that would kind of pan. It'd be really easy to depict another side of the boat, and the
Nothing
scene does pan, but only as far as the cannon goes. And then you've got a hatch. So let's open the hatch. I think at some point you have to set off a gun or a cannon to potentially distract people. Basically what we're doing here is a stealth mission, and we can't just get caught on this submarine. And it is going to then extract the scenery based on whether you're standing behind something or not, so you can see more of the interior, which that probably had to be hand programmed. So we can get down this way and we're safe. So let's walk to the sub intercom and start looking at some levers.
It says Flugeldufel.
It's all in German and probably made up words. Interesting. I can't walk to the intercom anymore. Interesting, that prompt just disappeared. Let's walk to the lower deck. I expect that that's what you're gonna do. Now remember, you're not in a position quite yet where people are going to catch you, because you're just not wandering around with Indiana Jones outfits.
A source of power greater than any known to man.
And if you
Soon
walk
we'll have it in our
over
grasp.
here, you'll hear
Now, Miss Hapgood, it's
hear
time to
them.
share your
It's kind of funny they didn't bother to animate
No, I
her
am not a
sitting,
jerk.
but then
Your life we're talking about,
they
Starlight,
did
so?
they didn't animate her sitting, but they didn't animate these two sitting. It would have made a lot of sense to not bother to animate either one. Notice that there's only a couple lines of dialogue that they put in actual voice acting. And then, so you're just slightly hearing key phrases. And you can't just open. We've got an emergency rudder control. And see, the whole puzzle here is going to basically revolve around the idea of eventually figuring out how to open and run the entire ship. This is very much just like the scene from The Last Crusade, where you're wandering around the interior of the castle.
I'll just dump these wet clothes on the floor.
So now we've got some clothesline. I guess we don't need any of these clothes.
They're all too wet to wear.
Why there would be so much wet clothes, I don't know. So there's a trapdoor here. When this closet is open, you can't open the trapdoor.
I don't see anything special about it.
There's,
I can't pick that up.
which is funny because it's like the closet by default was closed. So we can walk to the strong box where the next stone.
It doesn't look that strong to me.
Yeah, we're gonna need to find some acid to manage to eat through the strong box, I think, at some
Boy,
point.
is it
We're basically just grabbing things. And this is the second time we've collected an oily rag. We got one, remember, at the very beginning when we made the screwdriver to remove the back of the bookcase. So they've just reused that aspect in that animation, which is fine. Over here we have a torpedo tube. And notice you have a non-swastika bearing Nazi flag.
Back to your station, Herr Lieutenant. I am reprimanding these men.
So he won't let us
Aye, aye, Captain.
go any further. He won't let us go any further that way. We can change to Indiana Jones clothes if we walk into the head. But there's a probable
There's nothing to
reason
look
not
at.
to do that right now. I think we have to distract this
You
guard.
there.
Sir?
Let's see.
Or what are you doing here, soldier?
Can you believe it? Kerner's got me guarding a rock. Not that I'm complaining, mind you, but I should have gone off duty hours ago.
So, in these lockers, we need to replace the rock, or steal the rock.
Don't mind if I do.
Get some cold cuts. Get some bread. We're basically making
I'll
a
take couple of
sandwich.
slices.
This whole thing feels very much like a case of early experimentation on point and click type puzzles. And so they're calling that a submarine sandwich, although in all fairness that really isn't what a submarine sandwich would be. We've got another lever over here. You've got a sailor. None of them are really going to stop you as long as you're in an outfit. I think it's kind of silly to potentially spray paint a name on a torpedo, but okay. You have a control panel, and we have some wires, and you have a launch lever. And then what you want to do is open this trap door. So basically, I want to start a fire at some point. And to do that, walk under here as everybody else is going this way. And convince everybody to run away so that the guard will move out of the way. I believe that's the case. Is what we're supposed to do. I think we may very well have to just do some more.
Sir?
Let's see. Why are there so army men on a Navy sub? Is a silly question.
And what are you working on, Chief?
Some idiot crossed up the wires on the aft torpedo controls. Better stay clear until I get them uncrossed. Could start a fire.
Fires would, of course, be very dangerous in the submarine.
Why are there so many army
We might as
men
well
on this
just have
Navy
a
sub?
conversation.
Orders from Berlin. The scuttlebutt is Uberman and his pugs have friends in high places.
Do you know where Uberman's keeping his stone disc?
Stone disc? That's a new one on me.
Carry on, sailor.
Aye, sir.
Okay. So, I think we still are 6 points short. I think what we have to do here, make a new save, because there's pretty much like 2 scenarios here. First, we need to get the stone disc, and then second, we need to get off the ship in some way. So we can talk to this guard and try and give him a sandwich, or we can try and just relieve him, one or the other.
I'm here to relieve you, soldier.
I could use a lunch break. Unfortunately, I can only be relieved by Colonel Kerner himself.
So, yeah, you can't just talk your way around here. There's also, I believe, a lock on this emergency rudder control that you need to do later. Now, what's funny here is you don't have any, like, items extra to put in the sandwich, so you're not, like, poisoning them.
That'll work.
You can't put the gum in the sandwich. Can't put diesel in the sandwich or anything to make him sick.
What are you doing?
I just ate the
Just,
sandwich.
Eating a sandwich, Corporal.
That's not very polite.
I know. Why don't you make one for yourself?
I didn't realize he was going to
I
eat
really
it.
shouldn't leave my post.
I don't think I ever have done that before. Which I
thought
think,
he'd never leave.
which I think that probably proves that there are probably some things that I've missed. Alright, so let's go ahead and close.
It doesn't seem to close.
Alright, let's pick up the torpedo instructions. And close the locker. Okay. Let's go look at this. Too.
It's a padlocked wheel of some sort.
And see, this looks like there's a stick there for no reason.
It's a pamphlet entitled Torpedo Launch Instructions.
Yeah. And in a funny way, that is kind of different from what I think I'd played this game before. There might be 2 paths, honestly, where you end up
The sub's changing course.
on the we triggered something, obviously. Yeah, there definitely are 2 points at which you're on.
You lost the moonstone. Relax, Herr Doctor. We'll find
Because
it.
there's definitely a point where you use the submarine
Can't
just
allow
to
petty
directly
theft
go
among
to
this scurvy crew to stall our
to go
expedition.
to Atlantis.
Und if Fraulein Hapgood fails to find an alternative? I'm not worried. She'll come through.
What's
You
interesting
lived
is
so long.
this is a better story,
She
at
can't
least
help
for
herself.
the
She wants to
female
find
lead,
Atlantis as
than
badly as we do.
The Last Crusade, where that female lead, frankly, it just turns into the bad guy and then gets forgotten fairly quickly
I'd better
in
get
the
myself
second
out
half
here.
of the story. And arguably, even in Crystal Skull, the female lead's not particularly good.
No naval personnel on deck, sir. Colonel's orders.
Stand aside, soldier. I'm an officer.
I have orders to shoot.
Oh, my mistake.
So you can't just escape, but also notice how the game does not just try to kill you like a Sierra game.
It says Flugelduffel.
Let's see. Might as well try the thing.
I'd better not play with these controls. Who knows what they might do?
And it just stops you. No fun there. Definitely this whole sequence gets used differently in the different paths, which it really does kind of highlight an issue with the idea of middle branching paths that just
Turner, lock the door.
don't really make a lot of sense. I think there's no reason we don't really need to go in there anyways. Because if you were just to have merged the three pathways, you would have just had a longer experience. We're barely going to spend 30 minutes on this submarine in this instance. And I don't think we have the acid or need the acid in this instance. We need to get these guys away so we can then use the torpedo tube to shoot ourselves out of the torpedo tube, which is a very Indiana Jones ridiculous way to save Indiana Jones. Which I don't know where that concept came from, really, because like I feel like, let's see, in the Ark of the Covenant, I don't feel like Indiana Jones escaped anything in a greatly crazy way other than closing his eyes during the point that the Ark of the Covenant was open.
Don't mind if I
And
do.
then Temple of Doom, you have him escape on the minecart, which is
I'll take a couple
a
of
high
slices.
action thing, certainly, but I'm just going to make it a sandwich. But it really isn't anything. Can't pick up anymore.
It's labeled Ausgeschnitzel.
Can we pull it? Probably not.
I better not touch it. I don't know what might happen.
And yeah, when Last Crusade, Indiana Jones doesn't really escape in anything either. So sadly, the truth is, the idea of Indiana Jones surviving a nuclear blast in a refrigerator more than likely also is similar to the comedic element that is added in Fate of Atlantis. That being said, Fate of Atlantis was highly popular, so it's no surprise that Steven Spielberg would want to similarly use that idea again. So you
Let's
just
put it to good
tile,
use.
turn that, and
It looks like the controls to the aft torpedoes. They look impossibly complicated.
so then we use the torpedo instructions with the control
Okay,
pin,
it's ready to fire.
and then we don't just pull it, we use the clothesline with the launch lever.
I don't think that'll do any good.
Nope, you don't use the clothesline with the launch lever on this one, you use it on the other one.
Uh-oh.
What's that smell?
So the guy notices the fire,
That ought to hold them for a while.
and so now everybody is on the one side of the submarine, leaving you to then use your
Out here in
Indy.
public? No way.
You have to walk to the head and close the
I'm already
door
there.
on yourself, which is kind of unnecessary. And certainly
Might as well.
possible that you would just wander around the ship feeling extremely limited and not know that you have to change your clothes to do the next action, because he doesn't want to shoot himself into the ocean through a torpedo tube, which would almost certainly kill you. I mean, I don't particularly understand or know how
It's too
torpedo
complicated to figure
tubes
out.
launch torpedoes, so maybe there is a way you can just flood them very gently and pressurize them slowly and let somebody swim out of that section. But I would almost assume that there is some kind of force, some explosive force that shoots them fast and quick away from the ship, and that they aren't just using tiny little slow propellers to swim out to ship.
Okay, all I have to do is push the lever.
Alright. Let's open the torpedo tube. And then we're going to use this clothesline with the lever, which is here.
I'll try to
Levers
clothesline
are
to the switch.
barely 1 pixel wide too, so it's not a big... So I wouldn't be surprised if some people were fairly confused and didn't even see the lever. Ideally, you would want to get rid of this chain here, and probably move the lever a little bit more to the foreground and a little bit with more of a contrasting background so it really stood out. Or if you couldn't change the animation, you would have the guy mention the lever as he was chewing out the other men. So you just crawl in there, and then you pull the clothesline.
I hate getting wet.
And so now his clothes are supposedly wet, and I guess they just will magically dry. I actually do think you can use the sandwich later on in like a mouse trap. Yep, and we're still 6 points shy of a perfect game, and that was barely 22 minutes from landing on top of the submarine to getting to the greater colony, which we hadn't been to yet. Here we have a stone pedestal.
It's just about the same size as the stone discs.
And see, there is a broken path here and a broken path here, and one would think that one of these would potentially lead to a medium colony or the idea of a new colony being built. But yeah, Atlantis only made the greater colony and the lesser colony, which doesn't really explain the Mayan pyramids that they just, I guess at that point they didn't have any transport that far away. So one of these doors will, in at least one of the paths, open up and you will just walk your way to Atlantis. Which again, it would have made a lot of sense to just have an animation of a magical teleportation device. But I can also certainly understand why they wouldn't want to give the Atlanteans the ability to teleport, because then that it doesn't really explain how Atlantis fell at all. Because then everybody could have escaped when it was sinking fairly easily. You've got another one of these big background things. Almost certainly there was one person or more that was just in charge of making backgrounds, and they did a good job doing it, but they probably, the game director should have told them, hey, make just single screen backgrounds and save some of your time and effort to make some more character animations or item animations. just use that skill in a different place. And so here we're in another dig that honestly doesn't look too different from one of the digs that is in the Crystal Skull. But that's not super surprising that certain ideas are either going to be direct copies of the previous Indiana Jones content, or the same idea growing in the mind of the same creator. Because I'm sure Steven Spielberg, in part, had some thoughts here.
It's a pile of rubble.
So you're in a room, you have a bunch of rooms here, and this is one of the points in particular where the rooms are randomized, but also kind of horribly underused. And it would make tons of sense for those underused rooms if you had merged the fighting path and the co-op path and the wits path together. Going into a room could have started a fight. That would have made all the sense in the world. This is a very big location, too. Just way bigger than it really needed to be. Yeah. It really would be very easy to remaster this this concept. You basically would need to remake the game. You don't want to just put better graphics on a Scum VM or a Scum Engine point-and-click adventure. I don't think that's enough there. Yeah, but there is clearly...
It's a pile of rubble.
Clearly ways in which you could remake the game and redo the graphics and take the general concept and merge it into one linear story.
Nothing in there except dust.
And we have more pots that, while these pots look more cracked and have black lines over them, they are pretty much the same pots we've been seeing in other places. And that's efficient reuse of simplistic items. So that makes sense. That kind of also just continuously establishes the idea that you don't really need to look into pots. But honestly, they kind of counter that thought by actually letting you look at the pots.
It's a pile of rubble.
Feels like they very specifically wanted a real archaeological dig. And see, this is all you're looking for here is a mural.
It's an ancient diagram of some kind. There's a bull's head, horns, and tail. The lines appear to converge on that circle. Could the circle be one of the stone discs?
So yeah, we're looking for the third stone disc. We very easily got the Moonstone and haven't even used it
Images carved into it
yet. You see, the mural there is just randomized, so it could have been in any of these other places.
I see nothing.
They may have already found the disc. And see, this is labeled as stones, but it's brown like it would be a pot.
It's a pile of rubble.
And see, we have
they look like
tall
the town's
hall.
centerpiece.
Then there's Bull's Head statue. It's an entrance here, an entrance here, and an entrance here. Did we go in there? Yeah, that's what a mural was.
It's a bull's head statue.
And so, yeah, like any of these could have been
it's
it.
A pile of rubble.
If you weren't going to have every section of this be a fight, which I could see it getting boring if you go into every room and there's a fight, that may just train players not to go inside.
Now is air.
That you might have some puzzles in there too. You very well might have puzzles to highlight before you actually get specific items. A point-and-click adventure in the old days certainly is around the idea of you just click on things and you find the hidden object that is hidden in the world, and that is often the only puzzle you get. But if everything was locked in a safe, or if you had to like solve some kind of puzzle, you could certainly expand on that thought and realize you could show the player that there is something there, but you can't just get it by clicking on it. You're going to have to do a little bit more. Normally in point-and-click adventure games, you have very little fighting that happens. And so the fighting mechanic doesn't really make a lot of sense. And certainly it could be you walk in there and into a lot of these rooms and you run into a Nazi and you can either try and talk your way through it or fight it, which again would be very much like the castle sequence. I've literally not gotten anything here. I've just seen the mural. I think we're on the path where you actually don't actually interact with any of this. And this is just all wasted space. That may very well be the case. There's supposed to be a surveyor's tool. And it would have led you to a stone. But I don't even think I need the stone. And the surveyor's tool's not here. And like, had you used the surveyor's tool, you would have then, at that point, yeah, I think the surveyor's tool is right here, usually on the other path. So if you wanted to speedrun this game, you almost certainly would do better to go on the wits path, because, yeah, you skip that whole thing. Use sunstone with the stone pedestal. Let's just check this. Yeah, 250 out of 256. Use moonstone with pedestal, and then look at it. Okay, and we probably should have first and foremost checked the player's dialogue, since that's randomized. We need the at the greater colony, a moonstone was also needed with the darkest night healed by the full moon. So darkness and full moon, sunset, tall red horns. Let's see. So we want sunset and tall red horns. And then new moon and full moon is kind of hard to tell the difference. They visually tried to help you a little bit there by putting a chip there. So yeah, darkness, full moon, setting sun, tall horns, setting sun, set and waxing moon. Like, you would think it would always be the same, kind of in a combination lock, but they changed it up to make it a little bit more complicated.
What do you know? A secret door.
You would almost assume in a modern game that this is just going to be the beginning, and there would be a second puzzle or something.
So the legend of a labyrinth hidden under the ruins of Knossos is true. The legend of Atlantis isn't any more far-fetched. Maybe it's true too.
So, okay.
I'll bet the last stone disc and Atlantis are waiting for me somewhere beyond that door.
Notice how it takes a while to load that dialogue. I definitely don't remember it taking that long to load dialogue when I originally played the game, but also,
for the busts.
In all honesty, with
it's a bust of Apollo.
10 years plus, having passed, I imagine
It's a bust of Ares.
it's real easy to forget how slow and annoying games could have
Bust of
been.
Zeus.
It's kind of funny to have Greek god busts in this labyrinth. There's nothing else in here, but what happens is we need the statue heads. And when you pick it up a statue head, the gate falls a little bit more. And see, in this, you can see the statue head also in the other room. So you use your whip to get to that third statue, which is exactly the second time you've ever used your whip.
It's a bust of Ares. It's a bust of Apollo. It's a bust of Zeus.
None of these busts look particularly good. Like, just the same animation pretty much. It's pretty terrible. And then they color code it. At the very least, you do know that this game was always in color. Whereas some old point-and-click adventure games probably could have been easily played in black and white, even if they all did support some level of colors. Oh, they do have a transport device. Now that I remember this section, I'd kind of forgotten completely about this section. It's easy to forget about these sections, certainly, because you're either going to wander around empty rooms like that, or you're going to wander into a room that has everything you possibly would ever need to know. And this is not exactly a randomized labyrinth, but there is not a lot going on here as far as where you're supposed to go. Let's see. So you have this statue head of a minotaur.
It looks a bit wobbly.
And then you have this water seeping behind the wall, which I think even in your first view, you can pretty well tell this is square, indicating that there's some kind of secret door. And then you could pretty well tell that there's a elevator here. So we need the bigger Minotaur head to fall onto the elevator. So we get to use the whip twice.
It's an elevator.
There is something certainly crazy around the idea of having a whip in an Indiana Jones game and then having fighting sections, and that fighting section just never really... Alright, so you just crushed 2 of the stones when you landed on the elevator, landed down on the elevator.
Wait, that was my ride. It appears the elevator crushed at least 1 stone disc.
No, it was 2 stone discs. And so here's Sternhardt.
It says,
I am convinced the map room is somewhere among the upper chambers. I believe that static electricity will respond to orichalcum, but since I'm trapped down here, I'm not sure whether I have all the pieces for a makeshift detector or not.
Too bad. He came a long way. It's our old friend, Professor Sternhardt. Looks like he's starved to death.
So it would have made a
I guess
lot
he knew
more
a lot
sense
more than he let on.
to have...
Not enough to find a way out of here.
It would have made a lot more sense to have Sternhardt more in the story and kind of care about him. Indiana Jones is being a bit nicer now.
It's a wool scarf.
I don't know why you would need a wool scarf if you're wearing short sleeves and shorts.
Hey, there's a rubber comb in here.
So basically you're going to make a static electric detector in case you don't. Like, which is not really a thing, but if you needed to.
It's the world stone that Sternhardt swiped into Cal.
It would have made more sense if Sternhardt was the professor at the Icelandic dig, and he kind of traveled with you to Cal, and he kind of traveled with you even in the Trottier section too. Like there definitely have been 4 or 5 people that could have been merged into one. And see, there's a waterfall. Behind this waterfall is a chain you can climb up, but before we do that, we will go up here. They didn't want to give you duplicate world stones and moonstones and sunstones. Here you have the LucasArts logo, and here you have a gate.
It's a heavy bronze gate. It's a narrow crawl space.
Let's see. And honestly, I think on this path you just never get through here. I think it's a different path that you have to be on to see it. Which again, it really wouldn't take that much effort to potentially...
How nice. Wait, there's a chain running up behind
interesting,
the
he
waterfall.
said how
It must
nice
be
instead
holding
of
the
how
elevator's
pretty.
counterweight.
Like, so you can use the chain, climb up the water, which is an interesting animation. It's actually too animated for what it is. And going forward, if you don't want to fall down this elevator, you have to kind of...
I hate getting wet.
You have to walk forward to the statue and then walk down. It's kind of funny he says, I hate getting wet. So close to the last time he said it. Look at some bones.
Looks like another unlucky explorer. Bones of previous explorers, no doubt.
And so we just kind of want to walk around, and I believe at some point we, in one of the past, you Indiana Jones swing on the whip across that point. But on some paths, obviously, you don't do much with it. I just want to show off every possible location before we call it a day and just use the detector to get out of this maze. Yeah, here's another cave.
It's too slippery to climb up here.
And it's a doorway back here. I think we may have already gone through this doorway.
Bones of previous explorers, no doubt.
Yep. It is very much just an empty cave, which is slightly better than the caves in under the library in The Last Crusade, but only slightly. Then we have just another doorway that we can't reach. Once again, you're in a scenario where they kind of intentionally are making you just wander around. So we know that way went that way. So how did I get back to that room? I think you have to go this direction. Yep. And let's see what's behind this door. It's just the other doorway there. So you can see how some of these doorways just also connect. And that as you fall down. And that's another animation that's just kind of a little unnecessary. Alright, well, I would pretty much assume that each doorway is is actually randomized each playthrough, but you also have a problem with that idea in that even if it is randomized, it kind of doesn't matter because only 2 out of the 3 branches even, I think, end up having you come to this maze, and you would almost never play the same width path twice in a row to know if it was randomized. Interesting. I thought we'd already been this way. But apparently not.
Looks like another unlucky explorer.
I definitely do remember that there was some more elements. Around this. Alright, so it probably is efficient to use the clothesline with this.
I've tied the clothesline to the comb.
And this with this. He didn't have a clothesline or string, but
the comb's charged with
honestly,
electricity.
if he did just need a piece of string to use the detector, he could have easily taken a string out of his clothing.
It's pointing at that gold box.
So it's going to point to where orichalcum is, which why orichalcum gives off
There,
that
the
much
counterweight is
static
3.
electricity, I don't know, but whatever.
It's a shaft plunging into the darkness.
Okay. So I set the counterweight free, and you can see there's a picture of a minotaur head. Now there's kind of no point for this, but every single time you want to use this, you have to recharge it with electricity. So you end up doing that again.
It's not pointing anywhere. There must not be any orichalcum nearby.
Which that kind of tells you are rather far away. And it's not like you need to do it in every single room.
The comb's charged with static electricity. It's not pointing anywhere.
You definitely could have had more items in particular that interacted with orichalcum and more orichalcum in general in the game, so it was an actual currency. But I don't think that's really much of a complaint to legitimately make. They make good use of the times you do run into orichalcum until pretty much at the end of the game when you have an infinite amount.
Going up?
There potentially could have even been a New Game Plus concept. And see, that doesn't really make a lot of sense that you would need to have put the stick in the mouth of the statue, other than there was just a mouth, and clearly it was one of the 2 or 3 interactive elements on the in the room, so you might as well have tried. And for some reason, gold boxes act as static electricity shields.
There are 2 more beads underneath it. I'll take them too.
So we haven't had any orichalcum in a long time. It feels like you should have had one in your inventory always. Let's see. So you can open the gold box.
It's an empty gold box with a lead lining.
And they're saying it's lined with lead, as if that would
the comb's charged with static electricity.
Shield it. Which really goes to just kind of show the level of understanding of this pseudoscience.
Why, it's pointing at me.
So the problem now is, now that you have the orichalcum, you have to put it in the box.
The orichalcum is now in the box.
And close the box. That way your detector can work together.
The comb's charged with static electricity. It's not pointing anywhere.
And so you can't just say use this and just use it. You have to charge it first.
The comb's charged with static electricity.
Notice that there's a lot of stuff here still that's not really doing anything. And now that we have some more calcum back, we may charge the statue at some point and use that. So let's look at this hatch. Another
Looks like there's a part missing.
symbol. And this is their Minotaur.
Looks like a larger version of the statue Kerner stole.
So can we use the statue with the hatch?
I'll just put it in here. It fits.
So I don't know if there's actually any other orichalcum to be found in this path. Like, I know in some paths, certainly, it would point down into the bones.
It's not pointing anywhere.
So, potentially, at the risk of missing out on some things that may or may not be in the wits path, I think we need to just open the gold box and see if we can put some more calcum, a single bead, into the hatch and get it going. Look at broken column.
It's just a chunk of crumbling masonry.
So the Minotaur seemed like it made tunnels, but honestly, it didn't seem like it was even the right shape. It should have made a much bigger tunnel than just something you would have to crawl through. And seemingly it's going to then have you crawl all the way to a map room. Interesting.
Wow. Either Atlantis is a lot smaller than I thought, or I've found some kind of map or scale model. Laid out just as Plato described it, in 3 concentric circles.
It's easy to be a little confused and think that the lesser colony would have been the outer circle and the greater colony would be the inner circle and then Atlantis itself. But it seems like what they're indicating is that actually all of Atlantis just had 3 circles, which that seems more like a political narrative than a good architectural way to design.
Special about it.
Particularly if it is this island city, then you don't need walls to defeat defenders, to use as barriers from
It's a heavy
attackers.
stone door.
It would make much more sense to have a grid layout.
It's a heavy stone door.
So we've got several doors.
It's a heavy stone door.
We have a spindle in the middle.
It's a heavy stone door. It's a heavy stone door.
And let's go ahead and use this and see
The comb's charged
If
with static
we-
electricity.
if it points anywhere. Probably won't.
It's not pointing anywhere.
Yep. We've got quite a few things that are just collected extra. And we're still 6 points shy. There's a little statue robot here that you can't click on, but whatever. And when we use the stones with the spindles, We will get the stones back after that point. I don't believe the game would actually let you wander away without picking up each of the stones, but it also isn't really worth it to test that out. He probably would just say one line of dialogue about oops. So we need sunset at the tall red horns, darkness, full moon, and sun, western sea. Let's see if we can do that. It's the same combination, so it really shouldn't be too hard to do what we had done before. And then the blazing sun, which would be the noon on the western sea, which if you were just doing it from the top, it would be setting sun, waxing moon, city. Let's see if that works. And then it has all the cities popping up and down as if that's how the buildings in Atlantis work. We don't get any information that that's really the case. And you know what? It might not just for the fun of it. We'll make a save. And I will just click to the door. Walk to the door.
Uh-oh, I better not lose the stones.
And so he'll pick them all up, and then they'll be in at the end of your inventory in that order. And yep, there's a little bit more to go still.
The comb's charged with static electricity. It's pointing toward that door on the right.
So we solved the map room, and now we just walk behind this waterfall, which I feel like they probably wanted you to think about that, so they had you climb behind the waterfall earlier, because you wouldn't have been able to get to this point if you hadn't gotten the stone and exited that area. But they could have also just kind of left that as a not particularly good idea and left that on the cutting room floor. Although I am pretty much arguing that they should merge the 3 branching paths into one much longer story. Like one of the
pointing at those bones on the floor.
One of the beautiful things about video games that you can't accomplish in movies is that you can go a lot longer. So an Indiana Jones story that would have been 5 to 10 hours would have been fine. An Indiana Jones game that went 60 hours would have been fine. Arguably, most games that go 60 hours do have a lot of grinding and repetitive content, and maybe Indiana Jones doesn't really demand or need that, but certainly Uncharted pulled that off, and certainly in Tomb Raider games pulled that off, so Indiana Jones could have pulled it off. Of course, there is a secondary reason why Uncharted and Tomb Raider succeeded and Indiana Jones did not, and that's simply the licensing. But that shouldn't have been a problem for LucasArts, because it was the same company, so they shouldn't have been really charging each other, one department theoretically charging another department a licensing fee. That would be bad business.
There are 2 orichalcum beads in these bones. I'll put them in the box too.
So, alright, we found a couple more orichalcum beads, which that's great and all, but
the comb's charged with static electricity.
Where do we go now?
It's not pointing anywhere.
It would have been so easy to animate him using the scarf again before he puts it back. That way, once you've done that, you've done it. It does seem fairly weird that you would be in this position, though. Because we don't have anything. Like, we have 4 orichalcum beads.
The comb's charged with static electricity.
But we don't know what they're going for.
It's not pointing anywhere.
So I've either missed a section, or I haven't been somewhere, or there's
The comb's
an
charged with
element
static
here I
electricity.
don't remember. So I personally,
It's
as
not pointing
someone
anywhere.
who has played this game multiple times, am still running into that scenario where I'm just wandering around. Because I don't remember what the thing was that I needed to activate or do. This is probably a perfect place to use this because this is as many different
Comb's charged with
directions as
static
possible.
It's not pointing anywhere. Not again. That still hurts.
You get a second line of dialogue doing that when that would have
comb's
been
charged
fine
with
to
static electricity.
not record that second line of dialogue.
It's not pointing anywhere.
This is also a scenario where Indiana Jones is just alone this whole time, so the voice actress for Sophia is not getting any work at this point.
The comb's charged with static electricity.
Where it
not
would
pointing
have
anywhere.
made a lot of sense to have her always by your side, or mostly by your side. Even if she's not going to say anything much more than random lines of dialogue.
The comb's charged with static electricity.
She could certainly be the cheerleader saying, wow, that was
pointing anywhere.
amazing. Or she could throw out hints if needed. The first act of the game definitely makes it feel like she's going to be with you the whole time and give you hints. But if you choose the wits path or the fighting path, you kind of don't get that.
The comb's charged with static electricity.
Which does kind of mean that the wits path is probably the most difficult
It's not
path.
pointing anywhere.
Yeah, that would be how I would describe it, certainly, is that the wits path is the most difficult path. And the path
The comb's charged with static
pathing on
electricity.
this obviously is not great, because theoretically you should be able
It's not
to
pointing anywhere.
have it point in a specific direction, even if it is 5 or 6 rooms away. It's not too hard to do, although it would have been fairly hard to do back when this
The
game
comb's
was made.
charged with static electricity. It's not pointing anywhere.
So yeah, we're just grinding away. Grinding away, trying to find the thing we've missed.
The comb's charged with static electricity.
I don't think it's a case that
It's not pointing anywhere.
I made a mistake and there was maybe something else that was supposed to be indicated by the map room, and that I was supposed to use the detector in the map room and it would have pointed behind a specific door,
The comb's charged
and
with
then
static
using
electricity.
maybe I put the wrong combination in the discs
It's not pointing anywhere.
and that it actually opened the wrong door. I don't think that's the case. It's a little too crazy. And I'm just trying
comb's
it
charged
in
with static
every single
electricity.
room.
It's not pointing anywhere.
Definitely in the QA testing of this game, they probably would have gotten some feedback saying, hey, he probably should just say nothing instead of saying,
The comb's charged
something.
with static electricity.
Oh.
It's not pointing anywhere.
Maybe we do need to go all the way back
Here I
down
go
here.
again.
Very slow animation.
And there it goes again. The comb's charged with static electricity.
Yeah. After the first
It's not
time
pointing
this was,
anywhere.
he said, after the first time, he shouldn't repeat it, saying the comb is charged with static electricity. He should just say nothing. Or say the word nothing when you find nothing.
The comb's charged with static electricity. It's not pointing anywhere.
Yeah. He has a belt on, Sternhardt, so he could have easily made the comb hang from a strip of his belt or his shoelaces, probably. Yeah, but I guess that doesn't really matter
That water's
because
cold.
you get a second line of dialogue there. It is poor directing, certainly, script supervising or whatever, to have someone repeat lines over and over again and then have new unique lines.
It's not pointing anywhere.
Been there. We've been there. I believe this way. Have we skipped this path every time? Just gonna be real careful.
The comb's charged with static electricity. It's not pointing anywhere.
I wonder if I did miss something in the map room. Because we're kind of going late now. And this leads to this. Which leads to this. Which leads to this. It's such a long linear path that you would assume that this would have been that would have been a crossing point where you don't need to come back. Yeah, I would definitely have created it so that once you called in there, it would have collapsed and you wouldn't have had a way to go back, just to make it easier. And you walk through this door. Then you walk through this door. And that got that. It definitely
It's a heavy
feels
stone door.
crazy.
It's a heavy stone door.
Unless you are supposed to use the orichalcum in the hole digger.
I don't think that'll work.
Yeah. You have a picture here of the Minotaur, which if that was supposed to be a hint to anything, doesn't really make any sense. Where's this one go? Yeah, it leads back this way. And it shows the Minotaur again. Which I suppose it should point to something within 2 rooms. So theoretically,
The comb's charged
I
with
should
static
have already
electricity.
found it.
It's not pointing anywhere.
There's nothing else here.
The comb's charged with static electricity.
The gold box also kind of is not an important artifact when it
It's not pointing
probably
anywhere.
should have been an important artifact. Like, it would have made a lot of sense to get a gold box that was lead lined early on and it had some inscriptions on it, and the inscriptions led to the finding of the lost dialogue of Plato. Right, so either this way or this way. Which one has you accidentally fall downward?
Not again.
That was the wrong choice.
That still hurts.
There is a secret
The
door
comb's charged with
somewhere.
static electricity.
I now recall.
It's not pointing anywhere.
So, yeah, we've had big clumps of wall in other places, and that's what we're looking for, is that secret door and that secret wall to be revealed. But that can only be in a few rooms also. Otherwise, you just are going to starve to death. In fact,
The comb's
there's
charged
a
with static electricity.
decent chance that rooms like this can't be the
It's not
room.
pointing anywhere.
Let's see. And you can double click, but I don't think it actually makes them walk any faster. That would be very helpful, is if the game did have a fast travel. Alright, well, let's go through this door. Unless it's walking back through a door you've already been through.
The comb's charged with static electricity. It's not pointing anywhere.
And so we don't have Sophia. We don't have the necklaces. Did we ever walk through this door?
The comb's charged with static electricity.
I may just have to do this off
It's not pointing
screen.
anywhere.
It's
Going down.
that it does, I guess, point out an important fact there. That, let's go into this area and try it anyways. That points out that you do have to walk around. I could be misremembering something, and I might
The comb's
need
charged
to
with
do
static
something
electricity.
else.
It's not pointing anywhere.
Hmm.
It doesn't seem to open.
Hmm.
I can't move it. It's a narrow crawl space.
Hmm.
It's too high to reach.
Hmm. Hmm. We could go back to the map room and try a
What an inconvenient way to go up.
different puzzle, certainly, because it does say here, final entrances only yielded only to contrary minds. So maybe I do have to just put in a different opposite puzzle in the map room. Hmm.
The comb's charged with static electricity.
Hmm.
It's not pointing anywhere.
Yeah, there's definitely rooms for secret rooms. No, in one of the paths that's right. But I don't know if it's the Wits path. I certainly understand now why the version of this game that I got had that element of a walkthrough in the manual included with hints. Maybe not full walkthrough, but hints. Because it would be very easy to fail miserably.
The comb's charged with static electricity.
It should be right here.
It's not pointing anywhere.
And that would be the place I would put it, where there would be a wall to crumble with the ship rib or the shovel. But yeah. You're in this weird position where you're getting these orichalcum beads,
The comb's
and
charged with static electricity.
there's kind of no reason to even find them other than the
It's not
fact
pointing
that they
anywhere.
were supposed to be the thing that was blocking you from finding the right path otherwise. It's not like I missed something. I don't think. Okay. Use the sunstone with the spindle. And there's no logical reason why the Scum Virtual Machine Emulator would have glitched out the implementation of this and potentially messed it up in a way that you can't go forward. Right, so contrary minds would be setting it up like this, so it's rising sun instead of setting sun, and then full moon. So that would be everything opposite.
That didn't do anything.
Let's see, I didn't think that was going to do anything.
The comb's charged with static electricity. It's not pointing anywhere.
Hmm. Did I not use it on this?
The
This
cone's
room?
charged with static electricity. It's pointing toward that blank wall in the back.
Okay. So, yep. This is the problem with many point-and-click adventure games, is that they feed you into this thing. So there were some orichalcum beads here, with 2 of them to be stronger to make you go this way, and then when you walk back here, the idea would have been to use the compass again. Although, frankly, in a modern game, you would have used this with this. It would have become a compass. It would have pointed in specific directions in the inventory, or it would have been a heads-up display. It would have just always been pointing for convenience sake. You wouldn't have had to combine it and use it. The gimmick of there being a door that you don't even see is fine, but it's not ideal. So
It's another orichalcum bead. I'll put it in the box too.
And yeah, I had forgotten that there were subways. So that is how they're going to transport you.
She's a beauty.
To Atlantis from the greater colony. And you just have to put a bead in the mouth.
It looks hungry.
So we open up this, use this here, do this.
Looks like I've started this thing.
How the Nazis and Sophia end up at Atlantis is questionable, to say the least.
Ow.
And then you get the comedic owl.
Amazing. I must be hundreds of feet below sea level, yet there's enough air pressure to keep the water out. It's impossible.
And you're in this darkness.
Except if that were really true, I'd be dead.
And so we are now in Atlantis, and pretty much this is where the story and the act merges back together. You almost certainly are going to have the exact same inventory, with maybe the exception of the sandwich in different paths, and the wool scarf and the orichalcum detector. But maybe you would have had those anyways, because you might have found them somewhere else. And that's where this puts us in a weird position, because you may very well just want to I'm going to name this one Wits. You may very well just want to rush at this point to the end of the game. We're still only 6 points away from the maximum as far as IQ points. And you can see this is slowly fading and doing that eye adjustment thing again. But for the practical purposes of covering this game, it's not really worth it to do the first act a second time and a third time, and then do the final act 3 times in a row. So what I think we will do in the next recording is we will finish the game on the Wits path, but we're going to jump all the way back to this point. So several save files are just going to be skipped. The entire middle act is going to be skipped back. And then we're going to do the second path, the co-op path, and see the difference there. And then we'll do the fighting path and see the difference there. And then theoretically, we'll jump back to the Wits path at Atlantis to finish the game. And get that score, because I would honestly have picked the Wits path anyways, and I don't think it's particularly interesting to get a different ending on one of the other paths anyways, because I don't think there's going to be any difference. The puzzles at this point, while randomized per playthrough, are not specifically built around any specific path. So it will probably still say Wits path for the rest of the game, but once you get to Atlantis, the puzzles are the puzzles. They're a little randomized. There would be a reason if you just had an infinite amount of free time to play this game 3 times all the way through. But that is something that only made sense when this game came out. It is not something that makes sense in 2021. Anyways, we went long today. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.